Nick here, and welcome back to another Flash episode review. My thoughts on tonight's episode of Flash titled Shade. And I liked this episode a lot, but there are some issues that I want to bring up before I get into what I liked about tonight's episode. My biggest problem with tonight's episode is just the villain of the week was so unnecessary. Like, I honestly have no idea why they even bother to have a villain of the week when they're literally just going to take him down halfway through the episode. The villain served no purpose. We didn't even get to know the actual name of the character. He served no purpose to the story itself. I don't understand why the showrunners of The Flash feel the need to give us a villain of the week all the time when they don't have to. You had enough story in there between Wally, having those dreams, from Alchemy, and kind of coming to terms with that, and like everyone on the team, like having to deal with Wally and having, Caitlin deal with the fact that she's becoming Killer Frost and all that stuff going on. You did not have to have a villain of the week. I don't understand why they had to do that. It was completely unnecessary. And like, one thing I could say is, for those of you who know or don't know, I recently got back into watching Arrow. Obviously I'm still not reviewing it, but I did start watching the show again, and I gotta say, the show's picked up because there are certain episodes so far where they could have had a villain of the week and they didn't, and that's something that I think so far this season Arrow has over The Flash. And again, I don't understand why the showrunners feel the need to give us another stupid villain of the week when they don't have to. When they had enough story in there, you could have gone without it. So that was just my little bit of a rant on why I didn't like the villain of the week. But besides that, again, I really enjoyed this episode. I liked seeing Wally having to deal with, one of my favorite scenes in the episode was seeing Wally kind of confront Joe about the way he treats Wally compared to Barry. Because obviously, we find out in the episode, like, Joe doesn't necessarily trust Wally because Joe is reminded of his younger self, and he sees that in Wally, so he doesn't want Wally to have these powers and also be, like, a little irrational and a little hot-headed. But when Wally called out Joe and the way he treats Barry, that's something that a lot of fans have brought up in the last year or so, and the way that Joe doesn't... There's almost a double standard when it comes to Joe and Barry. Like, it's okay for Barry to do certain things because he's the Flash, but then at the same time, if Wally tries to do something, it's wrong. And I understand, like, why, like, Joe might want to really be protective of Wally, but at the same time, it is a little unfair because there is, like, that double standard. It's like, oh, it's okay for Barry to do it because he's Barry, and it's not okay for Wally to do it, Like, I understood where Wally was coming from in that instance, and that's why I love that scene of him calling him out. And I'm loving, like this, besides the stupid villain of the week, this is the first episode so far this season that I've really felt that they're starting to get the focus back on stopping Alchemy and for following through the season-long plot line. And tonight's episode, sorry if you guys hear too much background noise. Unfortunately, I'm not home right now, and I'm recording this as I'm driving, so you guys can at least get this video at least somewhat done. But anyways, back to what I was saying. Tonight's episode, especially the way it ended with the team going to confront Alchemy, and we find out that Alchemy is not there alone, and they have this like weird like cult thing going on there, and saying how like Wally was chosen to get his powers back from Flashpoint. And when they try to stop Alchemy, we see this like burst of light going through everywhere, and we're led to believe, at least I think, that that's Savitar, the speedster Savitar, and he looked creepy. He looked even scarier than Zoom did. And while I don't know what they're going to do with Savitar moving forward, and if he's going to end up actually being the villain of the season, or if it's still going to be Alchemy. But seeing that, like, as a fan, I geeked out in that moment. But at the same time, I'm not necessarily surprised, because I knew Savitar was coming, because the showrunners and certain directors of the episodes have been talking about Savitar coming for like a couple weeks now. Especially since that show was on a 2-week hiatus because of the election last week. So they didn't have a show that week, so they're talking about future episodes. So I was a little spoiled with that, but I didn't know that he was going to come in tonight. And another thing I really liked about this episode was I'm really happy to see them finally give Caitlin a storyline. And I didn't necessarily even my problem with the way they treated Caitlin up to this point was that they treated her as like a side character who had no real purpose, because they made her just the love interest of Firestorm, and then they made her just a love interest of Jay Garrick, who we later found out was Zoom. So they didn't really do much with her until they brought in the Earth 2 version of her, which was Killer Frost. And now that they're making her Killer Frost, she's finally become interesting. And not that, like, I didn't hate Caitlyn or anything. They just didn't do enough of the character that made me super invested with her as a character. Like, she was okay. There's nothing necessarily like good or great or bad about her. I just didn't think the way they handled her up until the season was all that great. And now that she's becoming Killer Frost, I'm loving what they're doing. And in this episode, when Caitlyn finally opens up to Cisco about what's going on, and he vibes her and he sees the future of himself and her fighting as Vibe and Killer Frost. First of all, that was another moment in this episode where I geeked out a lot. And finally seeing Cisco in costume as Vibe, I'm so beyond excited for that, because the whole Cisco becoming Vibe thing has been such a slow burn that I don't necessarily mind that, but at the same time, I've been dying for him to become Vibe ever since season 1. Like, to have the moniker of Vibe, to have the look of Vibe, to be out there in the cities fighting crime with Barry or even solo as Vibe. So seeing the future in this episode of him and Caitlyn fighting, I thought that was a great little scene. And obviously him initially lying to Caitlyn to essentially protect her and make sure she wasn't going to leave. That in that moment I'm like, oh great, now they're going to create this whole like few episode arc of Cisco, having to lie to her about what actually happened. But that actually surprised me. And Cisco told her actually what happened after he lied. And then Cisco, I believe that this is a little unfair on his side, that he ended up having to he was responsible for kind of Caitlyn telling everyone about her going through this Killer Frost metamorphosis. And while I understand that the team didn't need to know, I'm glad that the team finally knows, but I understand why in that moment Caitlyn was upset, because that's not Cisco's secret to tell the team. And so in that moment I believed her pain and believed her being upset, because again that wasn't Cisco's place to really be like, oh hey everyone, Caitlyn has something to tell you, when again that was Caitlyn's secret to bear, So I really liked that. Another smaller thing I liked in this episode, well, there's a couple of smaller things. I'm glad we finally see, Joe kind of be more social with what's her name? I can't remember her name or Cecile. Finally, them kind of slowly starting to become a thing, and I like seeing the team in a relaxed setting. That's just them going out to the movies and trying to have a good time, So I'm glad though that there was a little bit of levity in the episode, that we can have a little breather where things kind of felt normal for a second. Of course, before Shade attacked. And it was here in this. One other thing I kind of liked was, ever since the end of season 1 and the defeat of Reverse Flash and Eobard Thawne, and that version of Eobard Thawne was erased from existence, and then picking up in season 2 when he confessed to the murder of Barry's mom, having a Harrison Wells is problematic, because like this in the episode, the world still sees Harrison Wells as the man who killed Barry's mom. And last season when we saw the Earth 2 Harrison Wells part of the team, we saw him kind of briefly go outside for a second, and he was taken down by Patty Spivot because she thought he was the Harrison Wells that was the one that killed Barry's mom. And that's been something that I've been wondering about this, the last couple of seasons. How are they going to handle that? Is every version of Harrison Wells just going to be locked in Star Labs and can't go anywhere? But in this episode, they introduced a device, literally, so that way Harrison Wells, or HR, or this new version of Harrison Wells, can interact with people and change his facial appearance to at least to people outside of Team Flash. And seeing him kind of flirt with Cecile, I thought that was kind of funny, but at the same time it's dude, that Joe's on a date with her, and he's flirting with her and doing all these things. Damn, I felt bad for I really felt bad for Joe in that moment. But overall, I had a lot of fun with this episode. I love the setup with Savitar and seeing where we're gonna go with Alchemy and Wally becoming Kid Flash. and all these things that are actually pushing the season forward. Again, I hated the misuse of the villain of the week. It was stupid and unnecessary, but I loved, besides the villain of the week, I loved pretty much everything about this episode. It was a good episode to come back to after that little break that we had, and again, I really liked it. So that's going to be it for me. So what are your guys' thoughts on this episode? Sound your thoughts in the comment section below. Give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for every video I put up. If you guys would like to see other TV show reviews I review Star Wars Rebels, Supergirl, Legend of Tomorrow. Also, I have trailer reviews on my channel, movie reviews. Sometime in the next day, I should be reviewing the extended cut of Suicide Squad. I tried to watch it today, but unfortunately, I couldn't find a working link to watch it because I don't have the money to buy the digital HD version online to watch it. So watch out in the next couple days for me to have that review up. And yeah, that's going to be it for me. So thank you guys for watching, and until next time, have a good one.